We're going to play a game show later on in the presentation. You know, it's the one of the last presentations. We should have some fun. Can I get 6 volunteers? If not, Tanya from my office is going to just run around and randomly pick people. So if I get 6 of you voluntarily, that would be ideal. 1, 2, 3.
We don't have
Perfect.
to answer anything difficult, right?
No, nothing difficult. Just sit down. We need 3 more. Two more. This is interactive, cutting-edge blockchain. I'm going to offer prizes for anybody who wants to come on board. Oh, there we go, there we go. Very good, very good. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do we have a 6th? I need 1 more. It's okay. You don't need to. Come on up. I'm sorry, there's a stool here, but perfect, thanks. Okay, thank you for my brave volunteers. We're going to start talking about blockchain. So my name is Eric So. I'm with Globalive Technology Partners, which is a new venture started by Tony Lacavera, who some of you may know from being the founder of Win Mobile. Why am I up here? Why should you be listening to me? The subject matter of the discussion about the future and what that has to what that means for the rest of the world is kind of interesting, because anybody who calls themselves an expert in the space of blockchain probably has spent too much time talking at conferences like this. We are in very early days right now. To say that we know exactly what's going to happen in the future is probably very bold and probably very arrogant. What I can tell you is a little bit about my personal experience investing and making money with blockchain technology. So I can tell you, for example, that 3 years ago, before blockchain was terribly cool, I was involved in building software that was eventually used for the KYC and AML procedures at Coinbase in the United States. In fact, it was a piece of technology that our company had actually forgotten about, and we had shut off the server for that technology, true story, and it had an automated billing system built in there. And we shut off the server over the weekend, and we came back on Monday. We had about 20 voicemails from Coinbase because we had apparently shut down their entire withdrawal system because they were using our technology for KYC and AML. At that point in time, we realized, hey, we could probably make some money on this blockchain thing. Shortly after that, we started getting involved in mining. I myself, actually not being a technologist, started building mining rigs in my basement, much to my wife's chagrin, because I blew the fuse a couple times because I probably put too many servers in my basement. In October of this year, I invested personally in Coinsquare, Canada, when they were doing their capital raise at that time. They had a $30 million valuation at the time, and most recently, in the last couple weeks, they raised money at a $400 million valuation, so I did okay there. And probably around September, October, I decided to invest more heavily in Bitcoin when it was probably around $2,000. And for whatever strange reason, I had the foresight to sell it all in December when it was around 19,000 bucks. So I can't tell you that I know everything, because I don't, but I can tell you I'm damn lucky. So that probably gives me some experience. Now, when it comes to investing in the future, and Globalive is about AI, blockchain, and IoT technologies, finding the best technologies and commercializing them. What I think investors should look for is companies that can actually monetize and have a path forward for revenue. Because until you have a commercial thesis, a viable way to make money, you're not going to drive adoption on a large scale in the technology. And that's what we propose to do by using AI, by using blockchain technologies, and developing and partnering with people, in the cases that you see above you, with real companies that have real existing businesses, using technology to help monetize across their existing customer base. And that's really our thesis. If you look at artificial intelligence, it's quite fascinating. If you look at all of these different business verticals, these didn't exist 2 years ago. And you can already see the multi-billion-dollar applications for a lot of these technologies, which tells you that, we're in very early days, but we're evolving very quickly. If you look at blockchain, it's been a long day, you've probably seen this, you already understand the difference between centralized databases, distributed databases, so I don't need to bore you with these facts, but let's just say that there are vast commercial reasons that we can use blockchain for things other than Bitcoin. But if we're on the subject matter of Bitcoin, it's just interesting. How do you invest in something where somebody says in September that it's a fraud, and then in January he says, no, I shouldn't have said that. And you see the difference in the price of Bitcoin in that time period. So what is our fascination with digital currency and Bitcoin? And I can't take credit for this. A lot of this comes from my friend Sean Walsh, who's the CEO of Hyperblock Technologies. But when he was at the Miami Bitcoin conference, he said that Bitcoin is fascinating to us because it is the convergence of three very interesting things. One of them is e-commerce, the second is the social networking aspects of Bitcoin, and the third is monetary factors. And if you think about how Bitcoin has gone up in value, you can't really measure it by any kind of PE ratio or any conventional form of measurement that way because of its social network aspects, because of the fact that the more people say about it, good or bad, it gets more and more momentum as a social network. And if you look at Bitcoin vis-a-vis other types of money, and this is what I call the scales of the moneyness of money, and I can't take credit for this either, this is something Sean came up with. But if you look at money in its forms of scarcity, durability, divisibility, recognizability, if that's a word, or recognition, fungibility, and transferability, if you compare Bitcoin or digital currency with any other form of money, whether that be gold, whether that be US dollars, you'll find that Bitcoin scores very highly on all of these measures. And therefore, one could say that it is actually the future of money because it is more like money than any money that we've had before, whether that be calorie shells, gold, or dollars. We could talk about mining, but instead of doing that, I'd like to play a little game with my contestants that I have up here today. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to simulate mining in real life with real people. So I just asked you to all look that way, and if I could get the math problems thrown up on the board right now, that would be great. I think they have to do a little switch. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually perform Bitcoin transactions. So you're going to send this Bitcoin to your friend to your left, and these three individuals are going to answer math problems for us. And potentially win some prizes. It's okay, it's simple, it's easy. Let's start with the first question. 2 + 5 × 7 + 14. First one with the answer, raise your hand. Feel free to look at the board. We have 21, not the right answer. Again, 2 + 5 × 7 + 14. Feel free to look at the solutions over there if you need some help. 147 is the answer. You won a Bitcoin. And, and then this Bitcoin moved from you to you. Okay, so effectively what we're doing in the mining process is we're verifying transactions. It's not really mining per se. What it really is doing is decrypting these algorithmic equations that are distributed in a Poisson fashion, and what that really does is a complicated way to say it's a lottery amongst a bunch of computers around the world. But we're doing it in such a way that we're doing it securely, and let's try another one. What's 45 + 15 divided by 3? Once again,
20.
Feel free to 20. Here's the Bitcoin for you. And now we've successfully moved the Bitcoin from this individual to this individual. Now, what this very simple example has shown us is how Bitcoin mining currently works. Now, suppose I didn't send a Bitcoin through this. Suppose I sent some cannabis instead. And suppose each of these individuals wasn't a person transacting, but each of them represented a part of the supply chain logistics. Let's say this person was a farm. Let's say this person was some kind of a processing facility for the cannabis. And let's say this individual was somebody who consumes cannabis. I'm not trying to make any statements about you, I'm just suggesting that might be a possibility. And we've effectively used the blockchain to ensure that we know exactly where that cannabis went, who it went to, and the different parts of the supply chain that it went to. So we can replace the cannabis with a Bitcoin. We can replace the cannabis with a piece of a part from an auto manufacturing facility. But what I'm trying to demonstrate to everybody here is that we can use the blockchain in a commercial way to move and transport things in a secure fashion, unlike any other way that we've had before. And if the people in this room, together with all of us, can think of true commercial applications, one that have true revenue possibilities, you start to imagine what you can do, and you can start to imagine what sectors you should potentially start investing in. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me up here, by the way. I really appreciate it. Everybody give them a round of applause. You can keep the Bitcoin. Try to trade in for $11,500. Thank you. If we can switch from the math problems back to the main presentation, that'd be great now. Okay, so we went through how mining. Thought of a funner way to do mining than that. Oh, now the clicker's not working. Can somebody advance the slide? Okay. I don't know where I'm in the. Okay. So some of the examples of real-world applications that we can use blockchain technology for. I mean, you can do it as far as digital rights management and determining who is, if somebody takes a picture, for example, and want to move that picture from person to person and create an ecosystem where, in the journalist world, a journalist takes a picture and a newspaper pays for that picture, you can do that on the blockchain. We already talked about supply chain, for example, in the space of cannabis. Healthcare, medical records, securing the relationship between a doctor prescription to a, insurance provider to, eventually, to a pharmacist and then insurance provider, we can do that on the blockchain. Talked about the intellectual property implications, contracts of insurance, ticketing. If you want to move a ticket, like a movie ticket, all that is about identifying your access and rights to see the movie, and then taking those permissions, removing them, and giving them to somebody else. And we can use the blockchain for that as well. Real estate conveyances. Why do we pay for title insurance 7,000 times, or actually probably more times than that? When you verified the title and chain of title of one piece of property, and you put that on the blockchain, say goodbye to title insurance. Globalive itself, as I mentioned, was focused on leveraging real technology across real partners. We take a joint venture approach where we look at real people that have real customers already and leverage our technology to drive that commercial thesis. As I said, Tony Lacavera is our CEO and founder. I, along with the rest of the team, are dedicated to exploring all these ventures with many partners, and we've had some tremendous response since we've gotten started. And as you can see, some of our JVs, we invest in the actual technology. So we, like Flexity, for example, is a Fintech company. Eigen's a manufacturing company. Civic Connect builds smart cities around the world in New York, Seattle, Los Angeles. But what we're doing is we're using the technology that's our core piece and leveraging them across all these different commercial opportunities. Eigen's an example where we're actually combining AI and blockchain. When we use artificial intelligence to teach a machine how to do something better, we use the blockchain to secure that and transmit that to the rest of the supply chain and the manufacturing chain, which helps us to create things like lights out manufacturing. I'm sure you all have tons of questions. I've unfortunately used up all my time today, but I'd love to chat with you later at the cocktail and tell you more about what we're doing. Thanks very much for your time.